Hi. Yes, I am wearing this obnoxious hat, but I promise you, the alternative is way worse, okay? I'm protecting you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's in a little bit of a down note because, unfortunately, we have lost one of the greatest surrealists of our existence, Mr. David Lynch. I am so sad. I'm so upset. I'm hoping my local, look at me, this is disrespectful, but I'm just like, I hope my local theater starts like just showing a bunch of David Lynch films, like screening them so I can go to them. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite David Lynch movies. Actually, last year I should have went through with it. Last year I was actually going to do a David Lynch deep dive, do like kind of what I did with Wes Craven. It didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. I won't promise it, but hopefully maybe later this year I will get a David Lynch director series video out, so that way we can kind of go more in depth. This is going to be just a quick little run through just for time's sake in order to get out an homage to one of my favorite directors. Go ahead and hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel. It really does help. I know you hate me asking you every single time, and I know it's annoying, but I need the support. It really does help the channel. I really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It will help me, it will help you, it will help the channel, it will help the videos in the long run. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let's go. The first one that I'm going to be talking about, that's one of my absolute favorites. It's probably the first David Lynch film I had ever seen, and it is Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet, 1986. It's a neo-noir mystery film by David Lynch, and it blends psychological horror with film noir, starring Kyle MacLachlan, one of David Lynch's actors, and my favorite mayor of Portland.
Keep our nation independent and weird.
Isabella Rossellini, Dennis Hopper,
Heineken, fuck that shit, Pabst Blue Ribbon,
and Laura Dern.
Hello. I forgot to mention that my boy Brad Dourif is also in this classic. Please forgive my mistake of not recognizing his undeniable character with an undeniably questionable hairstyle.
You want me to pour it?
No, I want you to fuck it.
And it was named after, yes, the same 1951 song, Blue Velvet, which it is featured in the movie. This film is about a college student who returns to his hometown in Lumberton, North Carolina. Fun fact, that is, well, it's just in the same state that I grew up in. So yeah, comes home and discovers a severed human ear, which leads him to go down a criminal path, discovering conspiracies involving the troubled lounge singer played by Isabella Rossellini. Blue Velvet basically had gone through what we've covered a lot on this channel with trouble with production, in and out throughout the 70s and 80s. Major studios declined it due to its strong sexual and violent narrative. This was right after Dune 1984, which we'll get into because even though people hate it, I love it. And actually found out Frank Herbert really liked it and appreciated it, so it got that stamp of approval. So, you know, yeah, anyway. David was kind of interested in doing a more personal story as opposed to adapting an established story.
I'm not going to entertain drama, chaos, confusion, and madness.
It's like he wanted to go back to his first film, Eraserhead, and get some of the characteristics from that surrealist style film. So, of course, the independent studio De Laurentiis Entertainment Group, which was owned by the, yes, Italian film producer Dino De Laurentiis, financed and produced this film. This film also earned Lynch his second nomination for the Oscar for Best Director, and it received Best Film and Best Director prizes from the National Society of Film Critics. It is known as a cult film, although I feel like this is such a great groundbreaking film for him and for the time. I really appreciate that this was mid-80s and doing something just a little bit different. A neo-noir, surreal, mystery film. It's very explicit, but personally, I like explicitness. I think it's a beautiful film. I think that cinematically it's beautiful. I think the story is awesome and interesting, and it's complex. It's all around just a great film. People were divided on this, polarized. Some didn't like the explicitness. The music was by Angelo Badalamenti. So this was actually shot in Wilmington, North Carolina, which close to where I grew up. So that's pretty cool. Going back to the neo-noir concept, so that's basically post-film noir era film that sort of possesses the same characteristics as a film noir. If you don't know what a film noir is, I am interested in doing a video on that. Let me know down below if you want to see that, because I'm very interested in covering that genre. When I was going through school, that is one of the genres that I was very interested in, most interested in. I took several classes on it and actually shot concept photos surrounding that theme, and so it's always been a favorite genre of mine to talk about. Basically, film noir, it started its origins as adapting stories known as Pulp Fiction of the time. No, not the Quentin Tarantino, but yes, he was referencing that. Pulp Fiction was basically this cheap material that was used to make these hard-boiled detective novels. Think Raymond Chandler, The Postman Always Rings Twice, The Big Sleep, those kind of stories. They were known for their dark tones, their taboo subjects for the time, and mainly had the theme of sort of the love triangle, if you will, where it's usually a woman who is known as a femme fatale, which means a dangerous woman, who is married but becomes involved with another man, an outside man, and that sort of ensues chaos and tragedy and violence and sex and all that good stuff. Another good one is Double Indemnity. Basically, that was for the time. They mainly appeared in like the 40s and 50s, and film noir got classified by the French as that, not only for how they looked, but for also their narrative qualities being dark. Chiaroscuro was a defining aesthetic of that genre, and so neo-noir kind of was outside that era's development that had sort of the same story qualities, but was done in color, not in black and white. So Blood Simple from the Coen brothers is an example of one. Obviously, this film, Blue Velvet, is an example of one. I love neo-noirs as much as I do noirs, honestly. Let me know if you love film noir, if you have any favorites, and if you love neo-noir and have any favorites from there too. Let me know. That is Blue Velvet. It is one of my favorite David Lynch films. So I am not going to go, for time's sake, into too much depth on these films. I will probably do a deep dive into my favorite David Lynch films. Yes, stay tuned. The next one I'm going to talk about is Eraserhead. Not the band, the Eraserheads, but Eraserhead 1977, David Lynch. It is an American independent surrealist body horror film that was written, directed, produced, edited, all by Mr. Lynch. He also made the score and sound designs. It also included pieces by a variety of other musicians. It's known for being shot in black and white. Gotta love chiaroscuro elements of that, and it was Lynch's first feature-length effort following some of his short films. It stars Jack Nance, Charlotte Stewart, Jean Bates, Judith Anna Roberts, Laurel Neer, and Jack Fisk. It tells the story, how do I explain it, of a man who is left to care for his deformed, abnormal, strange, unusual.
Yes, I did that. And you would do it too for a check. I was an employee. And I was gonna get employee of the month, and that's a period.
Child. It is told within a seemingly desolate industrial setting. Eraserhead was produced with the AFI, American Film Institute, when Lynch was studying there. It spent several years in principal photography because of funding difficulties. I understand that. One of my projects in film school fell through because of funding issues, so I get that. Jack Fisk gave donations, and his wife, Sissy Spacek, contributed too, as well as Jack Nance and his wife and another crew member. That's sort of what you have to kind of do when you're just starting out, is just it's hard finding that funding, finding that production. You need a little bit of it, unfortunately. It was shot on several locations in California, at the Gritstone Mansion, and abandoned stables where Lynch lived. The soundtrack features some organ music, which you know I love. I love an organ. I love all things organ, by Fats Waller, and the song In Heaven that was written and performed by Peter Ivers, with lyrics written by David Lynch. He did it all, which is sort of kind of what you do when you're in school. You just sort of have to be your own editor, director, writer, camera person, everything. That's, you sort of do it all. You're a jack of all trades. This film initially opened to very small audiences, but gained popularity over several runs as a midnight movie.
It's the hell out of me. I gotta think about it.
The ultimate suspense thriller. Kept waiting for something to happen and it never did.
Some inane, bizarre person with a disturbed mind wrote that film, and I did not enjoy it. I enjoyed it very much. My kind of movie.
Eraserhead is a unique motion picture experience. I recommend it to everyone.
I liked it. I've seen it 5 times.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I've seen it 8 times, and that's about enough. This time I interpreted it as a nightmare. I thought there were other meanings, but now I'm not sure, really. Compare it to early Fellini, but I like Fellini better.
I thought it was an intelligently made, compelling nightmare about the repressed sexuality of Henry Spencer. That was his name, and I liked it.
Again, this film is a cult film, and it is one that I actually did not cover in film school. I don't know why. I rarely cover David Lynch films, which always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, what is up with this? Are y'all being like snobs about it? Because I personally love his style. I love surrealism. This film, though, was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant in 2004, which it is well deserved. It needs to be preserved for generations to see it and to view it, and I think it should be studied in every film school across America and the world, for that matter. Just some fun facts about this. Stories by Franz Kafka, who I absolutely love Kafka, and Nikolai Gogol influenced the script. Why I love this film is that it's just so unnerving, it's so surrealistic, it's so strange and bizarre and just out there. Apart from me being obsessed with weird things like this, why I love weird things is that it makes you contemplate, it makes you think about it. Not that I think you have to, every film has to give you that. It's just nice when it does, and it's nice when things don't make sense, because you can sort of identify and relate to, on a certain level, various different things, and it's not always going to be the same as everybody else. There's not really a direct, cohesive message throughout it, which I kind of like. There's freedom in that. This is a very cerebral film to watch. It's also just nice if you want something weird in the background. I don't know. Sometimes I just like putting on weird things in the background, you know. Sometimes I put Suspiria on, 1977, on in the background, and just because, I don't know, the sound, the visuals, everything, it's just nice to have on, even if someone's being horribly murdered, and yeah, whatever. That's Eraserhead. The next one is The Elephant Man, 1980. There is another film with this title. It's a 1982 television film. And there is also a 1977 play about Joseph Merrick called The Elephant Man as well. But this, The Elephant Man, is a 1980 biographical drama film that is loosely based on the life of Joseph Merrick, who was an English artist known for his severe physical deformities. He was first exploited at a freak show under the stage name The Elephant Man, and then went to reside at the London Hospital in Whitechapel after meeting Sir Frederick Treves and becoming well known in London society. Just a brief background on Joseph Merrick, if you don't know who he is. He began to deform abnormally before the age of 5. Most likely had Proteus syndrome, which is a rare genetic disorder that causes abnormal overgrowth of the body. It is also known as the Elephant Man syndrome. This film seeks to cover the life and experiences of Joseph Merrick, and it is very tragic, and it is one of the few films that has really touched me emotionally and made me actually cry watching it. I don't want to sound like a sociopath, but I don't really cry at film. When I watch a film, I kind of am analyzing it. I try not to do that. I do the rule of 3 that my film professors have drilled in me, which is that you watch a film initially, then you watch it again to analyze it, then you watch it a 3rd time to truly understand it. So I kind of don't really get caught up too much in the emotional narratives, but this one is very tragic, and it was so well acted by John Hurt. He did an amazing job. It just is very touching. extremely. Everyone who acted in this did an amazing job, like Anthony Hopkins and Bancroft. David Lynch, I think, did it well and did it justice, and I think did it for the most part respectfully. The film was also executively produced by Mel Brooks, but he was unaccredited, and this was an attempt to avoid people thinking that the film was going to be like his comedic works, but it did feature his company Brooks Films in the opening credits. It stars John Hurt, Anthony Hopkins, and Bancroft. The Elephant Man is one of his more accessible mainstream movies to watch. Regular audiences not wanting an art house film, not interested really in film, this would be the most sort of understandable, substantial film that could be consumed by a broad audience. It was a critical and commercial success, getting 8 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Actor. This film also caused the Academy Awards to make a category for makeup artistry and makeup effects, which is incredible and kind of weird that they didn't have that before. I guess that wasn't really a thing back then. Prosthetics and makeups just wasn't really used for more Academy Award nominated features. People really criticized the Academy for not recognizing the makeup effects. As a result, they created the Academy Award for Best Makeup for the following year. The film also won some BAFTA awards for Best Film, Best Actor, and Best Production Design, and was nominated for a Golden Globe. It also won a French César Award for Best Foreign Film. I love the fact that David Lynch also wasn't afraid to use black and white. I think it is a bold choice amongst the introduction of Technicolor and color in general in film to do a black and white film, because audiences expect it just to be in color. They don't expect a black and white film. Sometimes it can be off-putting to people. It is always, I think, a great choice when you're using it in assistance with setting a tone or setting a narrative. I think because this was a film that was set way back in the past, it was good to use black and white. Overall, just a great contrast. I think the chiaroscuro works really well with the makeup effects as well. John Hurt does an amazing job. So does Anthony Hopkins. It is an incredible film. It is very touching and very moving and well deserving of all the awards and accolades. All right, moving on to one that I love that a lot of people hate. Dune 1984. Yes, I have mentioned this many times on this channel of how I love this film, even though people hate it. But, hint, hint, may have a longer video coming out focusing on this, appreciating this misunderstood masterpiece. Dune, it's a 1984 epic space opera film that was written and directed by David Lynch and based on the 1965 Frank Herbert novel Dune. This is a fever dream of a Dune adaptation. It is a cacophony of chaos, madness, attempt at capturing a space war mystic, futuristic tale that I so love. I love the Dune series.
Clap if you care.
I read all of the original novels in a week because I was so obsessed with them. Yes, I'm a speed reader. You can tell because of the way I talk. The way I talk is the way I read. Very, very fast. It has such an all-star cast and it was set up to be just this ambitious thing. But for audiences of the time, it's just too confusing. I am going to go into very much depth on this on my Dune 1984 video. The book itself is tedious. It is
Thick, boy! That's a thick ass boy! Damn!
packed with information and detail and plot. It is complicated to understand reading it, let alone trying to translate that to the screen and be able to let broad audience interpret this and get what you're talking about in the story and understand it. It is very difficult. I think the new ones kind of do it way better, but I also think it's easier for people to understand because it is more accessible for audiences to get the information of the background of the film so they can understand it. They can also communicate with people who are fans like me, who know a little bit more than what is presented in the film and understand terminology and the structure a little bit better. For the time, it was too complicated, too complex. So when you're handing out sheets of glossaries to be like, look, read this over before the film starts so you can understand what's going on, people are just like, what? You're on a date and you're just like, hey, look at this Muad'Dib. He's supposed to be the savior of this weird sand planet named Arrakis. People were kind of off put by that. I could see why. It has Kyle MacLachlan, which was his film debut, of course, unfortunately. Patrick Stewart, my Sir Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard.
My heroes.
Brad Dourif, who we've also covered on this channel. I've done a video for Mr. Dourif, who I love. Virginia Madsen, Sean Young, Sting, and Linda Hunt. The setting is complicated to talk about, but in summary, it's set way in the future that chronicles the conflict between noble families, House Harkonnen and House Atreides, with House Atreides recently in charge of the desert planet of Arrakis, also known as June, which has the spice drug melange that is coveted amongst the universe and galaxies. As a very intimidating character once said,
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
Political opera. I think that was a great genre title for that, a space opera, because it is very operatic. This film was going to be made, and it was wanting to be made way before 1984 and before David Lynch. Of course, we all know about Alejandro Jodorowsky and Ridley Scott trying to get their hands on the rights to do this film and to develop it. We all know about that documentary that encapsulates how much bigger of ambitions that a certain director had in his version of Dune. Not to say that it would have been more or less successful than this one. Obviously, this was a clusterfuck of a film and didn't do well at the box office. It was underperforming severely. It only grossed $30.9 million from a $40 to $42 million budget. So that was not good. Lynch really redeemed himself with Blue Velvet afterwards, I do have to say. Nonetheless, it is a great film. I love the visuals. I think that it looks great. Apart from the colored in blue Fremen eyes and the battling with the shield, that is. Talk about this in the longer version of Dune as well. I don't want to give too much away about how David was severely rushed and this meeting studio demands. I think Universal was the studio. They were rushing him and just cutting so many things, so it's not as cohesive as it was. And I think Lynch is not really all to blame. I think he just had a lot of unfortunate factors going into this. This is what happens when you put appealing to a production company over artistry, time, and appealing to the actual novel and fans of the novel. It was a failure, but I still love it. He treats this film now equivalent to how George Lucas treats his Star Wars Christmas special, which if you don't know, it worked. George Lucas won. He actually disavowed and just completely removed himself from association with this. He's so unhappy with it, or he was so unhappy with it. I keep forgetting he's not with us anymore. I don't think he should be that hard on himself. I appreciate it. I kind of like bad stuff. You know, if you've been on this film, I also like bad stuff. Not a great adaptation, but I think, hey, it was a try. At least they tried, put it out there. I think it's so ambitious that anyone first trying to develop this, especially back in the 70s and 80s, would have had struggles, mishaps, because it's just such an audacious, ambitious, informationally packed story. So yeah, bottom line, I love Dune 1984. Sue me. Let me know your thoughts on Dune in general. Since the new films have come out, what do you think about it? I also saw HBO has, or Max has, Dune Prophecy series out, which I kind of want to watch. I don't know if it's going to be like Children of Dune, like that Susan Sarandon adaptation, like 2002 or something. We shall see. If you've watched it or if you've seen it, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. The last one that I am going to cover from Mr. David Lynch is Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. I love Twin Peaks. So you know how I did say I didn't cover any Lynch stuff in my schooling? Well, I did take a history of television class and I did have to watch some episodes of Twin Peaks. And that is how I originally found out about Twin Peaks, because I was not alive when it was airing. It is incredible. It is surreal, psychological horror mystery story revolving around who killed Laura Palmer. This movie is an extension of obviously the TV series, and it was co-written written by David Lynch and Robert Ingalls. It is actually a prequel to the television series that aired from 1990 to 1991. It revolves around the investigation of the murder of Teresa Banks and the last week in the life of Laura Palmer. This one is a bit more surreal and darker and doesn't have any sort of like humor that Twin Peaks had. Most of the cast reprised their roles in this film, but the majority of the scenes were cut, so some notable ones like Laura Flynn Boyle, Sherilyn Fenn, and Richard Beimer did not reappear. Laura Flynn Boyle was replaced by Myra Kelly. Kyle MacLachlan, who was Special Agent Dale Cooper, as we know, was actually reluctant to return because he thought he was going to be typecast with Kyle. Really? I could not see anyone being Dale Cooper other than you. That would have been really just, oh my God. He did appear, although he has a smaller presence than was originally planned. There were also 2 sequels that were supposed to come out but never did. The 91 minutes of deleted scenes was released in 2014 under Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces. And then, of course, we know the amazing return that happened in 2017 with Twin Peaks: The Return. Fire Walk with Me premiered in 1992 at the Cannes Film Festival for the Palme d'Or. It has long been reported that Cannes was not a fan of it. People just thought it was weird, but apparently this is untrue. Robert Ingalls says no, it didn't happen. It was a very polarizing film. Obviously at the box office it failed, which I'm not surprised. Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me is weird. If you weren't a fan of the series, I would even say if you were a fan of the series, I don't even know if you would like this one either, because it is different and it is very much surreal. Fun fact, did do good in Japan, which let's give it up for Japan for recognizing talent where the United States rejects. It has now been reviewed, re-looked over, which I appreciate, and has been praised for its qualities and being actually one of the greatest films of the 1990s. That's what someone else said. I would have to agree. I think it's an incredible achievement, and I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he released it. It's amazing. It's not what you expect. I think that's what sets it apart. I could see how even fans would be polarized on this. This kind of came about because they didn't get a 3rd season of Twin Peaks, even though the production company that was producing this wanted it. ABC canceled it because of the declining ratings and the high production cost, which is unfortunate because it would have been awesome. David Lynch loves Twin Peaks. He loved creating it. It was one of his works he was really proud of, really enjoyed making, and loved inventing that world. I'm so glad that it actually got recognition and reevaluated and praised. Going into like what I said of its success in Japan, apparently the cinematographer Ron Garcia said the film was popular in Japan, particularly with women. This is what Martha Nachemson wrote in her book on David Lynch and his work in relation to the popularity of this film in Japan. She says he surmises that the enthusiasm of the Japanese women comes from a gratification of seeing in Laura some acknowledgement of their suffering in a repressive society. Twin Peaks, you could go into sort of a psychoanalysis, which you could argue you could do that for the entirety of Lynch's filmography and television work. It definitely causes some unexpected relatability. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. What do you think of Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me? Who's your favorite character? I would love to know. Also, what we love about this is that David Bowie was in this film. Those are the David Lynch films that I love. They are some of them. These are not including his short film. These are just sort of surface level spiels about him. This was just so I could get this out pretty soon. I do hope to do a David Lynch director highlight, spotlight video like I did for Wes Craven. We'll miss David Lynch. He was a great contributor to the arts and to film itself and made a lot of innovation. I wish he would have been able to do more, but it's not meant to be. The universe has foretold, so it has spoken, and so he has moved on from us. That sounded very cryptic, but that is the workings of the universe, I suppose. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. I don't even know why I got this hat. To be honest with you, I kind of think it was just such a frivolous purchase at this point. Anyway, now I'm just buyer's remorse, trauma dumping on you. Sorry about that.